Hi guys, Clara here, in the same room I've always been in. And the time has finally come for another Create This Book episode. And I know, you've been waiting too long, so let's get right on into it. The first page I'll be doing is create a page of polka dots. I chose some black construction paper and thought that this would be a perfect time to try out my new paint pens. Now, I didn't just want to draw a bunch of basic dots and call it a day, so I thought I would replace the polka dots with something that is similar and polka dot-like, bubbles. I first grabbed the white pen and started with the outlines. I wanted these bubbles to actually look good, so I found several circular shaped objects to trace onto the page, ranging from lotion, to paint, to lemon pepper seasoning. I'm also not tracing the entire circle. I left some gaps to help with the realism. I started adding a little color before I decided to first add the highlights and reflections, so that the color will appear brighter. I'm basically winging it, as all the pictures of bubbles I'm looking at look so abstract, and I feel like if I try to copy them, it will be a mess. Like, what is that? I never realized bubbles look so weird. Finally, time to add some color, and I'm starting with the blue first, adding a bit randomly wherever I feel like, and continuing with the next color until all the bubbles have every color, or mostly every color. The construction paper definitely absorbed a lot of the paint, so the first layers weren't very pigmented and they had a lot of rough, blurry edges. I had just opened up these markers for this page, so I had to pump the paint through the tips before I could use them. I painted this page over 2 days because I like procrastinating. But when I used the markers the second day, I shook them up again, but just the oil was coming out. So I had to flush that out of the tip and spend a solid minute shaking them and testing them on scrap paper before the normal paint color came out. I don't know if I didn't shake them enough the first time I used them, but it was a bit of a struggle. And as you might be able to guess from my testing page, it was not pretty. As I continued adding more color to the bubbles, there were a few times I accidentally smudged some paint where the paint should not have been. So I just traced on another bubble and pretended like it never happened. After finally adding several layers of paint, the bubbles were looking very colorful. Now to bring back some of the shine, I once again took my white marker and added highlights to all the bubbles. But after adding the last highlight, our bubbles are done. Or are they? I wanted to follow my rule that every page has a smile. So I drew one more bubble on scrap paper so I could fulfill my duty to the rule guide. The page ended up being too big for the book, so I cut off a little bit of extra and taped it on the top to fill up the gaps. And with that, our polka dot page is complete. I love how this page turned out. I mean, I'm not exactly sure it looks like bubbles. I've just been staring at this page way too long and all I see are pretty colors. But let me know what you think. Our next page is going to be Create an Alien. Draw what you imagine an alien looks like. Try to think outside the box. And just a little side note, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Naisha Garg. I hope I'm saying that right. She watches and comments on all of my videos, so I just want to say thank you so much for the support. Now back to drawing. I was really excited for this page as I love outer space and aliens and planets, so I got right to work. I added a double ringed planet in the sky, because why not? Now onto my actual alien. I just drew what came to mind at first, and I couldn't get rid of the thought of a warrior princess, so I wanted her to be tall and powerful, but kind and passionate. And seeing as this is a princess, I would be remiss if I did not give her a crown. I based hers off of a pharaoh's headdress, probably most commonly seen on the Sphinx. Now, when I was drawing her, I imagined that in her world, their beauty standards were way different than from what we know. For example, large feet were considered more desirable, as their feet were never meant for footwear, and the larger feet handled the rocky terrain with grace. Same goes for her hands. Larger palms and long fingers were seen as beautiful, as the nerves in the hands were very powerful and allowed them to sense the energy that any object gave off. And as for what she was reaching for, it seems she has received a visitor from a faraway place, who is as curious about her as she is about him. In the distance, you can see the landing site for the rocket he arrived in, and a couple curious looky-loos who aren't quite sure what they're looking at. These are her companions, sent to look after the princess, though they seemed a bit preoccupied at the moment. With my rough sketch done, it's time to take out the fine point pen, which is probably my favorite part of a sketch. Let's get this boring background out of the way so that we can finally see our alien princess in all her glory. What should her name be anyway? Let me know what you think we should call her. Anyway, with the background done, I get to outline our princess, starting with her face. I added some eyelashes and gave her jet black eyes, as they offer additional protection against the two giant suns in the sky. Outlining her was very satisfying, especially her outfit. I just love the center cutout with the flared out sleeves and the overlapping skirt. I'm also pretty proud of the hands, as they're something I rarely draw. I think it helps that they belong to an alien, so they aren't supposed to look any certain way, and any mistakes I made could just be explained away by, oh, she's an alien, that's how her hands are supposed to look. When I finished up the skirt and moved on to her legs, I kind of made a mistake and outlined her lower legs thinner than I had previously intended. So this would be a great time to mention that she's an alien, and her legs are supposed to look like that. Finishing off with her webbed feet and long tail, I can now outline our little explorer. I tried to keep it simple since he's so small, but still ended up adding some details on his suit, as I just couldn't help myself. Now, this is probably my favorite part of the page, besides the princess of course, but her alien companions were so fun to design and draw. I gave them similar outfits as this is their uniform while they're protecting the princess. I also like the expressions they have as well. The one on the left is more reserved of the two, and is cautiously apprehensive about the strange metal contraption, whereas his companion on the right is more carefree and just enjoying the moment, allowing his sense of wonderment to take control. I drew the rocket based on the classic images of a rocket you see in cartoons or kids' drawings, as I wanted to convey that this was purely a mission of exploration with no ulterior motives. In simpler terms, he came in peace. And now my outline is complete, so after getting rid of the pencil marks, it's time to color. I of course had to get creative with my color scheme, as I wanted there to be no mistake that this was a faraway planet, as if the aliens weren't enough of a clue, but still. I chose a light purple, almost pink for the ground. For the sky, I chose orange, almost like it was a forever sunset or sunrise. For the mountains in the distance, I chose a darker purple. 1, because I liked the color, and 2, to help convey that these mountains were far away. I had some fun with our double ring planet and colored that in with various shades of green, and I quite like how it turned out. Now, the first colors I did were just the base, so I'm going back in and deepening the shades, as well as adding a yellow glow behind the mountains. This is also when I discovered a problem with my drawing. As is, the princess and the rocket look too close together, like her friends are a mini version of her, instead of very far away. To fix this, since I couldn't move them, I added a second layer of cliffs between them to add the illusion of more distance. I drew these cliffs smaller than the ones in the foreground, but larger than the small cliffs in the background by the water. I think this is exactly what it needed, as I am now very happy with the perspective they created. I wanted to add a little something to the scenery, and decided that our explorer would not be making this journey alone, but not everyone is as brave as him. As I'm finishing off the background, I'm adding shadows to all the cliff's edges to give them more definition, as well as adding shadows for the rocket and the aliens, which I think turned out really well. Not to toot my own horn or anything. The last part of the background that doesn't have any color is the water, which I decided would be a light green. Now for these aliens, I chose their skin to be blue, mostly because it's my favorite color, though I think this is my only regret in my drawing, because when I showed it to the people in my household, they said my aliens reminded them of avatars, but hopefully the fact that they're practically giants compared to us is enough of a difference. But anyway, after all that's left is to finish off her outfit. I chose white as it's the universal color for innocence and purity, which I think complements her aliens well. And with the shading of her outfit done, our alien scene is finally complete. Just need to glue it into our book, and I also went ahead and colored in the other planet to match ours as a finishing touch. I have to say, other than my doubts on some color choices, I'm very happy with the finished product. Alright, the last page we're going to do today is create a fan page. Choose a favorite movie or TV show. And it was because of this comment that I actually picked Harry Potter for the theme of my fan page. So thank you. Since I planned to paint this page, I glued on another layer of paper and clipped the rest of the pages together on either side so that the book would stay flat the entire time I was painting. Now, for anyone who has not seen any of the Harry Potter movies, or for those of you that don't remember, when the movie title appears on the screen, it's usually accompanied by a cloudy sky. So I thought a dark cloudy background would be perfect for what I have planned. I was pretty sloppy at this step since I figured most of it would be covered later by the clouds, but if I were to do this page again, I would have covered the entire page in the same shade of the gray, as it turned out to be quite a pain in the butt to fix it up later. I was using dollar store paint as well as painting on printer paper, so it was not the best combo. It dried up really fast and made it difficult to blend. I also messed up gluing the paper in the book the first time and had to rip it out. So my second attempt was very bumpy and uneven, but at that point I didn't want to wreck it further, so I just let it be. I finally had my clouds down, but this looked very rough and not very cloud-like. So I grabbed a makeup sponge I had laying around and ripped off bits of one end so I could dip it in the paint and blend out the cloud edges. It was a bit slow going at first, as it's been a while since I did sponge painting. To be honest, I know most people say clouds are easy to paint, but it is the main thing I struggle with. I think because they're supposed to be simple and straightforward, I end up overthinking the process and making more work for myself. But enough of that. Because the clouds are done, or at least I am refusing to mess them up further, and it is time for the page's centerpiece. This would not be a proper fan page without the Harry Potter title front and center. I first sketched out where I wanted the letters to go, then fancied up the font off camera before breaking out the brown paint. The Harry Potter title I want is a pretty gold color, so I put down a layer of brown which will act as the lowlights or the undertone of the gold. With the base layer done, it's time to add some shine. I added multiple layers of the gold paint as mine was very thin and watery. Again, dollar store paint. But one of these days I'll upgrade to a better quality brand, but today is not that day. I also added a bit of white to the gold paint so I could add some subtle highlights along the letters. Okay, now for the final part of our fan page, I'll be using my black paint marker. I wanted to incorporate different symbols and recognizable images from Harry Potter, but I figured painting every single one would take forever, and I didn't have that kind of time. So instead, I decided to paint, or draw I guess, silhouettes of all the images I wanted to add. I contemplated sketching out everything first, but again, who has time for that? Plus, I thought it'd be fun for you to see if you could guess what it would be before I finished drawing it. So let me know if you figured out what I was drawing before the silhouette was finished. I had a lot of choices to pick from, and only so much space. So I chose the ones that meant the most to me personally, or the ones that I thought would be the most easily recognizable. And I have to say that I'm pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. The black paint marker comes off a little shiny, but I think that just helps it stand out from the background more, and it sort of goes with the shiny letters of the title. What do you think of this Harry Potter fan page? And which silhouette was your favorite? Alright, that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, let me know down below which page was your favorite. But other than that, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye!